There we go. Okay, I just had to actually let it be for a little bit. Now, what I want to test now that we have a public YouTube live, actually live on the channel, is I found out about this, like, if you add /live to your YouTube link, it should, yes! Okay, so I don't have to update the link to the live every time. And we can leave the Carlbot to oh wait, it tried pinging a random user, like a non-existent user, rather than the actual live stream role. Okay, give me one moment. Because I want to actually fix this little pinging system. So, we're currently guinea pigging this. And I don't have the headset on, so I can't actually see, like, chat. I will, like, click back and see them on occasion until I put the headset on, which I will in a second once we actually get the bot stuff working. Could I do this with the headset on? Probably. I don't know. I'm delaying it a little bit. So let's edit this. Let's see. Okay, I need an ampersand in there for it to actually be a roll ping. So now, if I, let me see if I can get this to stop the Twitch stream, but not the YouTube. That should just show up as a little blip on the YouTube stream, where like it stops streaming for half a second. Okay, so that is fine. That's actually really low latency, wow. And now, if I restart the Twitch stream again, it should re-trigger the bot, and we'll see if the roll thing works. Probably take a little bit. And I don't know if it will re-ping for like stopping and starting real fast. We will see. We will see. I mean, the stream elements bot got re-triggered. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, if it doesn't re-ping, that's not the end of the world. I'll just hope that... I wonder, can I edit this message? No, I can't. Okay. We will just manually ping stream notifications then. All right, let's get to it. Then let's see. Let's restart that. So we get a fresh chat log. Nice. Need to be able to see YouTube chat too. Throw that over there. Okay. I can now see chat on all platforms. So, off stream, I got not too much done. I ended up going to sleep early last night, as one occasionally should do. Here, I'm gonna make this screen a little smaller. Not that screen, this screen. Line it up with my view and everything. There we go. Now I actually have chat in my peripheral vision, which I don't have a lot of peripheral vision. But now we will have a little bit of peripheral to work with. So all I got done was fixing some errors with the Linux build, which were a little bit annoying. I had to fix my WSL environment to actually be able to compile newer C++ versions. But you'll notice that if we actually look at errors for the project, oh, that's weird. There's like 2 of them right now. But if we look at like errors in the project, there's significantly less now because I fixed the this isn't a real errors, and those aren't spamming anymore. It's very nice. I am wondering, is that for HX? So what does this H mean? Does that mean half? Like half instead of full? Maybe then SX would be short. Like 8x, that is a full int. At least I think it's a full int, yeah. That's a full size int. This is a half size int. So if we did hx, that's like half. And then this, you just do 2 h's, half of a half. It's HH. Because I know there's like LX, which is long. So if I do HH, is that... Okay, yeah, that does it. Just making sure there's not any weird stuff going on. And then for this, I'm just gonna copy the same string over. For consistency. We could probably make this a static and share it between the two, like a static constant. But that at least removes that from the annoying, hey, you need to fix this. We aren't using stream anymore. Ah, Python. Don't need to worry about Python problems. That script runs fine. So, getting back to what we were doing before, which was creating a versioning / commands / undo system for the editor. So we have a tracked value. We also have a action manager. Also, maybe you can call it a change manager. No, I like the more generic action manager. Then we'll open up versioning at CPP. So that we can start defining these. And real fast, just so I can make sure that this is being handled correctly, we're going to add a subdirectory of state, because I don't think I'd done that yet. Yeah. We'd not yet added this so that our highlighting could actually figure it out. That's interesting. It's not letting me run tasks. I would like, kindly, to run building the database. That way we just make sure that our LSP is correctly configured for this. And then what we need to do is action end or current change is equal to action end. That's really the only thing we need to implement at the moment. I didn't want to do that. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. And what I want to look at here is JSON versioner. And just see how we handle, or how I used to handle, the undo and redo actions. Step forward. Oh. Then down here, we'll just say if current action equals actions begin. Basically, if we're at the, oh, that's undo. Then we're going to say current action. And this is stepping backwards. So we're going to say back, and then we'll pass in current action. Context. Action is not, oh right, because it isn't a pointer. Current action is an editor action, but it is a iterator, so we should that works fine. This should also work fine. Call it a completed constructive unique pointer. How did I pass it in an executor const? Ah, that would do it. Do I want this to be handled as a shared pointer though? A shared pointer might make more sense. we don't want to assume that the context of every single action is different. So we could shared pointer this. Because we could have an optimization where we don't need to allocate a new context every single time, or force a new allocation for every single one of these. Let's see. Then we need to call. See, that's versioning things. We don't need to worry about versioning things. And it looks like then we need to increment the change. But this is going backwards, so we actually need to move it backwards. Then, oh no. Is not contextually convertible to oh. That would do it. And now we can copy this to step forward. And this actually needs to be equal to end. No, undo is begin. Okay. Redo, right. So, decrement iterator, call the back on that action. So we're now in the state before that action occurred. And this, we execute the current action. And then here, we will execute change. Now see, here's the fun thing that we can do, is we can make all operations on objects we can theoretically make all operations on objects. So my Vim theme is... What? I can't actually remember what it is. But... It is... Yeah, these windows are covering up my IRL screen when I sit, so I have to, like, move things that don't exist out of the way to actually see stuff. Throw that up there. Move these back in. Looks like Gotham. I don't think it's Gotham. It's more of like a tree-ish theme is what I was going for. Yeah. But it's somewhere in here. Hey. So now I need to implement the thing where when we execute a new change, action, it adds it to our history. So this is on version JSON, not the JSON versioner, but that's because, yeah. It's because this was like the change previewing system that was working before. So when I finally executed a change, when I said record change, I would go onto the tracker, TKR, record change, and then we would call redo on the change. So even in my old version of this, I still use the same idea of the versioner being the thing that executes the initial action, and at no point do we actually have changes being done from within. Who's supporting Hack VR? I'm not sure. So you mean like Reality Hack, or a specific event called Hack VR? So I am actually unfamiliar with this hackathon. So Reality Hack they have sponsors that go to the event, so they very commonly have meta sponsorships, but like I've been, like, see Foundry right there? That was the last company I was at. We were a sponsor of it. But you got Shapes XR, Ultraleap, Snapdragon. Of course, there's Meta there up at the top, but it's a number of people. Yeah, so they're an MIT associated event. So it isn't technically the school putting it on, but it happens at the school on their campus. There's the old Foundry logo too. Oh, TikTok was there. I didn't realize that. But yeah. So they got all the sponsors because they are cool. Yeah, we'll see if I ever finish the screen share system. I feel like if I do ever finish the screen system, it's going to be as an extension of Brane Engine in like a code from within the engine sort of deal. So I'm like sitting in a VR environment with my client, possibly in like a workspace with other people working on the engine. So you'd be able to like flip the screen around, like look at the code that I'm working on. Would be cool. is my dog whining? People might be like trying to give her a bath or something. Right. Currently stressing over how I want to do preview changes. Because I want the preview changes not to be on the object end, but instead be on the versioner end. So if we have one preview change, and then we switch to another preview change, it overwrites that preview change and reverts it. So I guess to do that, we have to set a preview change. So this is like one extra action on the top of this stack, but it never gets actually put into the action stack. Oh, there are people at the door, and the dog has been put in a room nearby me. That's why I'm hearing her suffer. So when we execute an action, do I want preview and execute action to be different, or do I want a boolean here to be preview? I'll just set this to false by default. And if we are previewing a change, the way that this will work is and I'm gonna set this up as an option. We're gonna say if preview and if we currently have a preview I did not click there. If we currently have a preview change, I did write that, didn't I? Oh, I forgot to make this a member function. There we go. So if there is a current preview change, then we want to call back on that and revert it. Change value context and then we'll set the preview change to be actually, since the way we call this is very consistent. You want to call this backward? Go forward and back. That's fine. Move forward and for forward. Oh, this needs to be void. When we go forward, we just pass in the context. And now we don't have to manually pass the context in every time. Now we set the preview change to the action, and additionally, we can call forward on this whenever. And now I get to decide if I do decide. I'll finish this out first. So if this isn't a preview action, what we do is record a change. And this is the main bit of code that I want to yank from the end here. Is this if the current change or current action is not equal to the action's end, we want to erase all of the actions all the way to the end from our current action. So this is essentially if you've controlled Z multiple times, and then you'd make a new change, you know how it overwrites your current history. The idea for this is basically that it makes it a lot easier to, well, not a lot easier, it just works how you expect it to. For all of these, we'll do action forward right there. then actions, we will push back action, the new action. And the current action will become the last action. And end is one past the end, because every time we control Z, this gets decremented before we actually call the undo. So we expect this pointer to actually point towards, like, I guess the current state. And then finally, I'm just gonna throw this in here. If we have a preview change, it's always undone whenever we execute a new action. And the reason why we're treating preview change different than just another action is because I want to have value changed events. And let's say that you're dragging a, that you're like dragging a mesh in a scene. The way that I represent that in the editor right now is you have the editor asset, which contains a lot more information than what gets baked down into a, like, the in-engine asset. So editor and actual usable assets are two different things. And when you drag the mesh through the scene, you're changing the editor representation of that, which then gets mirrored over to the engine representation of that. So to do that, I want to have on-changed events that things can listen to. And when you're previewing something, if I was doing that through the undo system, where, like, when you moved it on one frame, and you didn't want to, like, have 50 undo events for a single movement because it was recording an action on every frame, instead, what you could do is undo what you did last frame and then redo, and then just not undo when you get to the last one. So now you have only one action or change recorded to the last bit of the event there. Problem there is a potential performance issue I see there is you would get two on-changed events. So when you call undo, on-changed event gets fired, and then when you do another action to then set it again, so it would look like the mesh was like jumping back to its original position, and then jumping forward, and then jumping back, and then jumping forward. And now maybe that all happens before, like, it actually gets displayed, so the user doesn't actually see it get jump forward, but what the code would see is it jumping back and forth very quickly. But if we do this preview change system, I can change it so we only fire an on-changed event at the end of this function here. So you would just see, like, unchanged, 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 unchanged. And when it finally gets to the end, yeah. Then that's when it actually gets recorded into the undo stack. Now, I just need to decide how I want recording events to work. Now, ideally, events are not per editor action context specific. So I'll be able to say, hey, I want to have an action affect something. Oh, that's... The thing I was thinking about here... I mean, this back always gets called. I want the API for deciding to listen for a change to be something you do with the actual value itself. Hmm. One thing we could do... Hello, hello. Not much. We're just working on a better undo/redo system for the editor that will work for everything instead of just editor-loaded JSON files, which is the way that it worked before. And the very specific thing that I'm trying to figure out right now is how I want to handle unchanged events, because we didn't have unchanged events before, but I'm kind of merging a editor... I want this undo system to also be the way that we handle state for everything. So if there's anything you want to be implemented into the undo system that also is state, then yeah, that would be included in here. So my idea is that, for example, when you change windows or move a window, that might also be a, well, maybe not move a window, but when you do an action that makes a editor window appear, then that like executes an event. And I'm trying to decide where I want those events to live, because they could live on the editor actions themselves. They could live... yeah, they could live anywhere. And... I guess I could make the changed events live on the values themselves. That would work. And then what I do want to be able to represent in events is if this is a preview event or not. And if this is a preview event, allow event listeners to change their behavior on, depending on if this is us committing to this action now exists in history, or if we want this action to instead be treated as a preview. And what I think is... we need to change the editor action executor. Maybe this is something we put on editor action context. Or something we put into the forward action. Yeah, I think this is something we put into the action executor. Here, we'll do an enum class, and we'll call this editor action type. Because I don't know, maybe we'll have others in the future, and it takes up the same amount of space as a Boolean. So we'll have a standard preview So if this is a preview action, then they can act accordingly. Then editor action type. So if this is a preview, we can act one way, and if this isn't a preview, we can act another way. And if this is executed as a preview, back will always be called at least once, with the action type being a preview. So if there's some preview specific cleanup, then that will also always be executed. Which is very nice. Which means this bit of code here doesn't actually need to worry about if well, I mean, it does. No, it doesn't. We do want this back to happen before we do anything with the preview, though, just in case this has any necessary cleanup actions that happen before this happens. But true, since this is a preview, this will be preview. And we need to change the signature of these to, actually, we need this to be an execution type. And now this will be standard executed. Oh, this needs to be forward. That also needs to be standard. This will be editor action type preview. That will be a standard action as well. And then the last thing I can think of is when we do step forward or step back, we'll put this after the guard, because if no actions occur, we don't need to clear the preview change. But for both of those, we will clear the preview change. And then we actually need to do a little bit more to clear the preview change. We do need to set this to not exist anymore, because if we called that multiple times, then it could have caused issues with it going back multiple times, which would be suboptimal. So I think that was all the functionality that I wanted to copy over from the old system. The dirty / clean, that's something I can handle with the actual action manager system. Yeah. So now what to do next? I think next we go straight into using this whole system, which is now fully implemented, to now create tracked values. So we will be able to have tracked, and this track will just be for very simple things, which we could static assert this to be trivially copyable. Can I make classes requires? No. I do want to make these tracked values memory thread safe, because at the moment all of our UI is not thread safe, which is a problem. And my way for handling thread safe fully implemented. Famous last words. Indeed. But I mean, this versioning system, like, the root of it can stay simple for now. Forgot to implement max actions. We don't. It's just a forever memory leak. We don't need to worry about it. We execute action. If actions dot size is greater than max, or what do I call it? Max actions. Oh. I could not find it because it is not following my naming convention. So now, actually, we can be super fancy with this and say, while actions, we can do actions pop front. So every time we go over that max actions variable, or over this threshold, and then every time we execute an action that puts us over this threshold, we just pop the front. This is a O of 1 operation, because actions, this is like the one time you'll see a linked list that, I think DQ is implemented as a linked list, right? Double-ended queue. better be implemented as a linked list. Double-ended queue. I mean, I don't care too much, but it's index sequence container that allows for fast insertion and deletion at both its beginning and end. In addition, never invalidates pointers or references to the rest of the elements. As opposed to standard vectors, the elements of decode are not stored contiguously. Yeah, individually allocated fixed dice arrays with additional bookkeeping. So it's like a weird blocks of arrays thing. I'm gonna ignore the weirdness of that and say it's a linked list. Can you reverse a linked list? I can. They said it was impossible, but I figured out how to do it. Yeah. So now we go back to our tracked class. And do I take another side detour here to do mutex? I actually do like the implementation that's using lock guard with the adopt lock system. Ooh, that's dangerous. It's a template. Never mind. It's like, oh no, I'm defining functions in the header file, but it is a template, so it matters not. Oh. We are going to use our own option type. And this should work very similarly to how Rust mutexes work, but they can also be sent between threads and all of that fun stuff. And it won't be too... they won't be as much of a pain to work with as Rust mutex is. So, potentially significantly more dangerous, but also easier to work with. And yes, if you're wondering, this is just a clone of Rust mutex, and I have been slowly cloning Rust types throughout this entire thing. So this value reference here, this will return a... Ooh. That is a question. How do we handle constant locks? If we have a constant lock, this will be a constant reference. I guess we need to pull off mutable. So, fun C++ thing. If you don't want to worry about how... You can make stuff mutable when your things are constant inside C++. You throw mutable on them. So for our mutex here, if this is a constant mutex, then yeah, we can do that. Or I guess what we're talking about here is a read-write mutex. We don't actually need to worry about this for now. Well, kind of. Because if I go here and I say value lock, it's going to complain because lock is not constant. I guess I can make lock work for both if it's constant and not. So we're gonna say mutable is questionable, and we're gonna say const, and this is const. So we have ways to deal with constant references to this thing. So now, if we just re-implement these same exact functions, and when we return this, make it constant, throw a reference there, or a pointer creation, I guess. And theoretically, what we're dealing with here now is something that will work in constant scenarios. This is going to be very fun to debug. Oh, did I make sure? Yes, I did. So now when we go back to... where is it? Version tracked value. I'm gonna go back to tracked value. Nope. This mutex should now be able to handle a constant lock. Or dereferencing itself. Just be able to say constant lock. So I very much want to stop people from editing these values when we don't want them to. And then we also have a void set on this. Or we can say value. Hello, hello. How goes it? And then here we'll just do value, lock. Actually, we won't even set the value here. What we will do... Ooh, we need to be able to have a reference to ourselves. C++ shared pointer reference to self. There is a certain class you can derive from. See if that's smart enough. Average C++ opinion. If you're using shared pointers, you don't understand what you're doing. Reference counting is fine. I can get away without reference counting, but it's a lot easier to do certain things with reference counting. And I have like manually implemented reference counting to stop myself from using reference counted things in the past, so now I'm like, okay, I'll just use the standard implementation of reference counting and it will be fine. And if it's slow, then we can make our own reference counting version of something in the future, and that will also be fine. Just like a day of refactors to swap out that data type if we need to. Okay, what was I doing? Right, here we are gonna return a editor action that can be used to set this value. And what I wanted was, right, I need a way to get a reference to myself, or to that class, to be able to. There's like a unique pointer this class reference. Not unique pointer, we need shared pointer. I've done this before, which means I need to look at Brane script, where I know that I've done this, over in, was it IR implementation? So I know I have like an as function. No, not here. It's in document context. Am I on a like branch locally? Where would I have put it? Not CLI. Parser? Okay, it's under parser. Document context. And then enable shared from this. There it is. Deep archaic knowledge of C++. Cursed knowledge that must very rarely be used. I have recited the deep lore. So now what I need to do is where did I make that? Oh, I made that callback system in Rust, didn't I? Ooh. Hello, not much. We have all now sidetracked ourselves to refactoring the entire undo system, or undo redo system editor state, because I didn't want to use the old not JavaScript, JSON library. Though JSON is from JavaScript, but yeah, we have totally squirreled into. This is turning into an entire engine refactor, which is a questionable decision for me trying to do this on a tight deadline. However, I'm going to be a lot happier if I do this with, well, this is like actual refactors that very much need to happen for me to be happy with the code base. But this is going to be like, this is going to be super clean if I do get this working, and this will solve the problem of an undo system for the entire engine going forward if I get the thing that I'm working on right now to work. So it's like really cool if I get it working. Dubious if I should get it working when I have, what's my currently counter to, 21 days? 21 days to get this working? But hey, this fixes the like stability refactor step of things, which turned into the first week of refactors, and probably the second week, and probably the third. But let's keep it to 2 tops. We don't need it to be any more than that. And currently, right now, what I'm stressing over is how to handle unchanged events, specifically delegates. And specifically, the problem that I always run into with delegates or events is what happens when the person, or the, not person, entity listening for events gets deleted, but the thing that they were listening to still exists and still has a callback to them going, hey, I'm listening for your events. And then the thing goes, alright, I am calling the event that you are listening to. Oh, you don't exist anymore. Error. Thing crashes. Though usually I've had that problem in C#, so the thing doesn't crash, you just get a very nice pop-up, and then it's in Unity, and you don't care because it's Unity, and you're like, my app still works. No, I'm not like that. I have to fix it. But that means either every single person that, or not person, every single entity or class that listens to unchanged events from this thing either needs to have a way to then unsubscribe from events. That's why I stay with Linux. Oh, this isn't a Linux thing. This is any operating system and any language that has an event system. You can't escape this with Linux. I mean, Linux has less C#, so you have less of this problem, I guess. But, no, this still needs to work. No, you're using the same code regardless of operating system. I'm not doing OS level events, I'm doing in my own code events. Yeah. The way that I think I'm gonna handle this is... we're gonna create an event system. Here I am creating all my abstractions before actually implementing the original thing. So new to Linux, so I'm telling everybody how much better it is. Oh, don't worry, you will mature and still tell people Linux is better, but with a sigh of, then I went back to Windows, because everything is on Windows, and other people use Windows, and I really wish I could use Linux. And then you'll just have it on a dual boot, so you can use it when you want to. And then your favorite game implements a kernel-level anti-cheat, and then you're just screwed from that point on. The event. Into it as you are. Ah. True. Let's see, I wonder how... How does standard function allow you to put in, so it has the return args. Wait a second. If I put return and then class args, like class R args, does, oh, if I follow this exact same syntax, am I able to make this event follow a function signature? Can some manage to run easy anti-cheat on wine? Maybe. No, it's a Mario 64 type game? Then you're safe if that's your favorite game. So if I say R and then args, can I just copy the C++ syntax for the function definition, and now I can use this? Oh, this isn't an explicit specialization. See if I do. Watch, I'm gonna include functional and it's gonna stop claiming it's a... Wait a second. Do I need a... There's the undefined class. If I just do that, it stops. So that's why there's the random template class function thing there that's undefined. It's simply so that the syntax works. And now, every single time I create an event, it's an explicit specialization of this non-defined class. Yep, see, they just have a completely empty thing. They did put a name for the function type, and then you have this. That's public get function implementation. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not complaining about the syntax, so it will probably work. So... events shouldn't have return values. So we'll just have arguments. And we don't actually need the function name there. That's only if I wanted to do like delegate functions, which I don't. It's cool to see how that works though. which also means we don't need to do that fanciness anymore. And what I also want to do is create a event listener, which I could implement inside of event as well, and then you'd have to do event listener. But I prefer having less scoping, so we'll do event listener for these arguments. And the only purpose of this class at all is to store the listener ID Dang, I have like a looping situation here, so I might actually need to put listener inside of here. And then args doesn't need to be redefined since it's the same. So we will name this listener here. Or we can name it handle. Handle would work too. But the purpose of this handle will be that using event handle ID equals u int size t. So we'll have an ID here. We'll also have event handle ID counter. And all that handle does so we'll create an event inner class, and this will have a vector of, not even a vector. Do I want to do a vector? How many listeners do I imagine seeing here? No more than 5 at any one time, probably. Oh, I was on a key. So we could get away with a standard pair of event handle ID. And the reason why I'm using a vector here instead of a map is for very small vectors, say like 100 elements or so, they're actually significantly faster than maps. So unless you have like huge amounts of data, like talking like probably over 500 elements, if they're small elements, and I'm just completely throwing random numbers out here, but I know for like 10 items, like 10 or 20 items, vector is actually faster lookup for a key if you just have it in a pair than having an actual like unordered map. And then event inner will also have the counter, because why not? And the reason why we're putting this inside of event inner is because we'll have a shared pointer in here. Hit event inner. Ooh. I'll include the memory here. Yeah. There is no anti-cheat on Linux. The anti-cheat on Linux is going, anybody that uses Linux can probably get around my anti-cheat if they want to. So we're just not even going to build it. They can also figure out how to get my anti-cheat running on Linux if they really need to. Corporate executive look at pie chart. Linux section of pie chart very small. Executive do not care about Linux. And then what I do here is when this handle is dropped, when it no longer exists, indeed. We have a handle here, parent dot we'll have a handle add listener. And when we add a listener, then we want to pass in a... We'll make this... I love the things I can do in C++. Using standard function void args actually that's not the syntax of using event callback. Yeah, but when you're the one making the game, a lot of times you'll think that you just want to completely remove all avenues for said cheating. Well, you can't eliminate them entirely. That's the entire reason that the anti-cheat exists. So it doesn't... The argument of allow the people that are very inclined to cheat to still access the game isn't very compelling, because, like, that's an easy route to... That's not going to be a very compelling argument. parent dot add listener. We want move listener. I'm not even really sure why we're talking about it either. We'll make this a struct. We'll also make this a mutex so that it is thread safe. Just say parent dot, we'll make it a function. Indeed I did. So the entire engine is C++. There's like 20,000 lines of code here from like multiple years of work before I ever even knew of Rust's existence. We're just gonna say erase if, and I'm gonna look up the augmentation for this because it is a funny thing. Because it's an entire like an entire process. Then we want to use the version of this with a predicate, which means we have a const. We can just do auto, it doesn't matter. Then we also want to grab ID if C first is equal to ID. We can just return. The latest trend is redoing C++ engine extensions in Rust, and then recompiling them into WASM to make it browser-based. So, I was thinking about making this a WASM-compatible engine for a hot minute, and then even having the scripting system be WASM-based, and then, yeah, WASM isn't quite where I need it to be yet to to do all of the things I want it to. So that looks good. Let's also do don't need to do anything more than that. So event handle, parent, remove listener ID. So we can see when this handle is dropped, we automatically remove the listener from the event. So now when we add the listener, we say inner, or the ID. ID is equal to inner count plus plus handle dot ID is equal to ID, and handle dot parent is equal to inner. Doesn't matter the target platform, they have a browser to initialize the game engine. Yes. Alright, you heading out? Thank you for sticking around though, while you could. Always makes for interesting conversation. Dot all callbacks? Yeah. Gonna in place back with ID and function. All right. I wish a good dinner upon you. That should be fine. I've heard that Rust has the best WASM compatibility at the moment. Oh. I know why this is being weird. Shared pointer to a mutex of event inner. Hello, hello. Yeah, so this should work. Then here, lock is going to be, we'll just say I for inner is inner lock. What engine do you think is best for making VR games currently? I would say Unity. Unity is what I personally have the most experience with. In it has a lot more compatibility with just various devices. Unity has traditionally been the best engine for building mobile games, and a lot of headsets like the Quest, mainly just the Quest, which is the market dominator at the moment, is Android, so it's like a derivative of a mobile operating system, and therefore you get Unity kind of being decently good at building towards it. There has been a lot of work with Unreal recently, so there are definitely some Unreal diehards that will tell you like, oh, I build everything in Unreal, but it's definitely the more fringe opinion that you have to justify it. Unity is your best chance of finishing a project? Yeah. I mean, I know people who have done very cool things with Unreal, but yeah. You're fighting for it. Whereas Unity is just like, yeah, I'll let you do whatever, throw whatever binaries you want in there. I'll handle it. Then up here, not there. Yeah, this is fine. So this is not as fine. We need to parent dash lock dash remove listener. So this is actually, yeah, that's a pointer too, so we need to, or is it? Yeah, it is a pointer. I think this is... Man, I'm gonna have so many templates, recursive templates to go through and debug here. But... I do remember that. That was an amazing time to watch. It seems like they're actually like doing good stuff now that they've fired that entire crew. Like I was watching Unite like over the shoulder of someone else, and I saw like them talking about all the stuff they're doing, and it's like, oh, it's almost like they have engineers in charge again. The purge occurred. The purge of Unity. Unity went from disunity back to Unity. Because they kicked out all of the disunity. Really? That would be interesting to see. Would they like revive the old code base or make one new? Like, it would murder all the other engines, or they would murder their old engine. That's definitely not our problem. This consumer do love when the open source engine is better. That is what I am attempting to do. We will see if I succeed. event. 2027. Event T handle. Actually, event callback. This is also event T, event callback. So these mega engines have some time. True, but open source is coming for them. They're gonna keep them on their toes. When you fire a lot of engineers, nothing stops them from making Blender extensions and talking to each other. Indeed, indeed. Nothing except the potential need for them to find a job. Because many people are not comfortable with the open source life. When the open source life is too based. Indeed. Hello, Alex. How goes it? Have you come to observe my suffering? Or madness, or both? I welcome you. Currently suffering myself, making a session system. Ah! All I have to say to that is, good luck. For action type. On chain. Come on. It's right there, add listener. Mostly work in profiling and optimization. Ah, so you get to use all of the tools that people usually don't use. I very much respect you for that. People can be stupid? You are saying this as a potential? As there's only a potential for people to be stupid? No, when you're working with consumers, or just anyone, it is a guarantee that people will be stupid. Refactor action. Context forward back. What is sparse? Is that like S parse? Like decompile? Okay, and here I can just throw a lambda in here and we'll be fine. Oh, not for context. Context, we need to actually come up with something. Use a debugger and run through the code base to see where it hangs and analyze the code and its assembly instructions. Okay, so like decompile stuff. Me whenever there's a memory bug. Oh joy, I would not want to have to deal with compiler errors. Like where it just silently outputs the wrong code. Interesting question for that. Which compiler, when you are running into issues where the compiler is what has broken things, which compilers do you see actually causing that problem the most? Like, is it the GCC compilers, which I don't expect that to be the case because open source people would be mad and then go and fix it? Is it like Clang because it's like the newer, more experimental thing? Is MSVC because it's Microsoft? And mostly because it's Microsoft? It's what the author intended and the translation causes conflicts. Okay. So it's less of a compiler issue and more of a very, very obscure skill issue. Yeah, that's what I was thinking is compiler errors have to be like, that is the absolute last thing on the list that you check. That's like, oh, my code isn't working, the compiler must be broken. It's like, dude, if you have to resort to that, that's like... It's like somebody in Iron Elo of League saying it's their team. That's the problem. Two engineers worked on the same code. Okay. Doesn't work on my machine. Oh, that is so much worse than it works on my machine. When you get the, well, it doesn't work on my machine. Custom debugger, ooh. I've yet to write one of those. I might in the future. I've had some very cursed ideas about VR native debuggers. Memory leaks do be leaking. I've been pretty I've actually done pretty well for myself with this system here. I threw this old code base through Valgrind a fair amount of times because memory leaks was one of the things I was a little bit paranoid about. But at this point, I'm just like, I'm just gonna use their reference counted pointers for a lot of stuff. And of course, you can still get memory leaks with reference counted stuff if you have things holding a handle onto things, and it's technically a memory leak, even though you didn't lose the handle, but that's more of logic problems rather than I didn't code this the right way problems. True, true. In here. Put in a shared pointer to our tracked type. Oh joy, alignment. I do not enjoy working with alignment. Alignment is pain. I mean, it's not too hard, but... What was it? Right, I was gonna put in... before and after in here. So when we set a value, we will create a new context that is make unique, tracked, or what did I call it? Action context. Don't even know many coding languages. I just grew up around embedded C and assembly language because that's all there really was. I mean, that's all you really need to know to understand all the other languages, because everything that they can possibly do is already covered by those languages. So it's all there. Yeah, exactly. It all breaks down to its instructions. So now let me look up real fast how I actually get the value that enable shared from this gives me. Shared from this. Oh, you literally just do shared from this. Newer file extensions and formats. Ah. Do file formats just get more insane over time? So the before is value. After is value. Not value. This value. And we never actually set the value. We just throw the before and after into there. And then our forward action is... a reference to context. And that's the editor action type there. Now hopefully this is able to automatically figure out what it is instead of me having to manually specify everything. I am going to have to manually specify everything, but I hope that I am not going to need to. So Rust annoys me because writing pure WASM is not practical. It would be too exhaustive for entire web stacks. Oh wait, let me read. No file extensions, because it won't technically be wrong, it's just another useless standard. I have created the new standard to end all standards. The actual result, there are now 3 competing standards. I find Rust to be one of the harder languages to debug out there as well. It's actually one of the reasons why I am coding this in C++ is because, like, debuggers just work for C++, but then I tried to debug Rust and it's like, what variant of an option is this? The debugger's not gonna tell you. But, like, everything in Rust is option, like, a new enums. How am I supposed to see what the value of a thing is if I can't see the values of, like, what this enumerator is? And of course I can, like, go through each one of the variants, possible variants, and see which one's data looks valid. And then it's like, okay, it's probably this value because that string inside of that variant of it is valid. And looks like it should be that thing, but, like, yeah. So, for, like, Brane script, I want to do a lot of Rustisms there, but I also, like, I'm going to spend a fair amount of time on the debugger getting it to look nice so I can actually know what's going on when I pause a program. Issue is happening at the core versus in memory. Ooh, joy. When the code make the actual core itself break. Action. Oh joy, I have a result in here. Do I actually want a result, or do I want to assume this always works? I'm gonna assume this always works for now, because we want our debug system to, for the most part, I'll have it, like, throw a console message if something doesn't work. Yeah. Fully multi-threading this is going to be very fun. And I actually do mean that as fun, not as, like, sarcastic fun. There's a very complicated pipeline system that I want to implement that is also like at the core of the scripting language that I want to make. So the entire syntax of the scripting language is based around this idea of pipelines. The better your debugger, the more easy it will be to bite off more things or have off. I'm guessing you're saying the easier it will be for me to beat the competition. And I fully agree. The better developer experience you give people, the more likely they're going to use it. Yeah, this is context dot. The context is going to be that action context, which will be this action context, but it will be a shared pointer. Exactly. And that's like, I want to do, another thing I want to do to make stuff easier for people that I don't know why no other engine has never done, or at least maintained a plugin for, is in editor source tree, or not source tree, in editor source management diffing. Woo! Let's go! Congratulations. But yeah, one of the like huge things I want to do is in editor asset diffing. So if like you have a merge conflict from Git in your project, you'll be able to go in the inspector of the editor. This is like what I want to do. Is allow you to like, oh, there's a conflict between two different versions of this particular asset, and like this particular values here. Select which one. That like requires more architecture than I'm thinking about right now. In fact, it would interact with this system that I'm building right now. Just copy how Unity handles errors of just ignoring the errors. Yeah, that is probably how this is going to work at first. I hate how Unity handles errors. From like a philosophical standpoint of like, oh, now people can just ignore errors and not have to fix them. Whereas if you're forced to like fix your errors, you don't have them to deal with. But yeah, that is probably how scripting is going to work, is if a pipeline runs into an error, it just continues on with its day. Better than losing progress. But losing progress in what? You mean like in a game? Because, yeah, for actual runtime environment, of course you don't ever want it to crash out if it can be avoided. Editor action context. This is going to be your action type. You know the competition, it's going to be at least 80% debugging and actually getting the... Yeah. And that's another reason why I didn't necessarily, like, I did spend some effort seeing if I could use Rust compiled to Wasm as a scripting system, but I was never too sold on the idea because, just, it's completely different to what game devs are used to. Of, like, this must be fully working before it even compiles. But with game devs, that's not what you're going to ever have. Action context. That. No, I can actually read WASM. It was just the standards aren't where I needed them to be yet. Or implementations of the standards. See, that's a very nice idea. If the actual WASM runtimes themselves supported the features that I need. But it's nothing to do with WASM or the stuff that compiles to WASM. It's the actual WASM feature set that I had issues with, and like how I want to handle memory management. Because right now, the way that WASM works, I would need to do a lot of memory copying into the actual WASM context and between different separately loaded script contexts, and it's slightly more sandboxed than I need it to be, to the point where it would tank performance. However, it's like making progress to be better, but it's... I can write my own stuff faster than WASM matures. Static pointer cast to I'll be able to do APIs because I'll just only support my language. I have no plans to have the engine compile to WASM. Action context. No, just action context. See, and then in here we have the value. No, not the value. I'm just gonna close this. There we go. Now I can actually see the code that I'm trying to reference. Tracked value. Yeah. As I said, having everything work through WASM is a nice idea. I like the idea of it. I put in some effort to see if I could get it to work. Indeed it will be. And that's why I want to be very careful about... I was actually very hesitant to put any Lua into the engine ever, even for like this, oh, we'll put it in for a month, try to win Reality Hack, and then take it out immediately. Because now it's going to be like, oh, what if you support Lua and this other language? And like, I only want to support the custom scripting language for the engine, because support one engine can support one scripting language that I control can optimize that scripting language for the engine, and the engine can be optimized for that scripting language. As soon as I throw another language into the mix, that all just goes completely out the window. Ever heard of Terry Davis? Is that the guy who made Temple OS? No. Wait. This is a different guy. Oh no, it is. It is. I'm used to seeing the older version of him. Yeah, and what I'm gonna do with Brane script is very similar to WASM in a lot of ways. Like, I'm just going to be straight yoinking a lot of the security optimizations for it. Mostly the security optimization stuff, but also taking inspiration from how they do some other things, but mostly the security stuff. Tracked value is now equal to CTX after. Then for the other one of these, I'm actually going to copy this entire thing. Wouldn't consider any form of security until the competition is over. But see, then there's no security at all, and I'm trying to make something that competes with the VR chat and Resomat and like other things. But the thing that VR chat is very famous for is like crasher avatars, like back in the day, where somebody'd come in with an avatar specifically meant to kill everybody in the lobby. So I'm gonna put some very early security stuff into like the architecture side of things, which could then lead to having more security put in later, but it's kind of like a build in such a way that it can be more secure later rather than build it perfectly secure first. Make one that does that in 1,000 different ways though. Yeah, but I don't want like raw memory access, for example, or remote code vulnerabilities just from the beginning. So this will actually be context tracked value on change. And yeah, we always want to invoke this. I guess I don't have an invoke function for event yet, which I need to do. You win the competition, you'll have money for a real security implementation. Yes. This is true. However, I don't want to completely not worry about it at all. This is a fun thing. How do I handle potential recursive event callbacks? Do we want this? Actually, do I have event inner? Yeah, it is in a mutex. So there's a way to stream textures in, but not meshes. No, there's a way to stream meshes in right now. Like to stop. Oh, you're saying for like crasher avatars that just load a ton of stuff? $1 billion problem. Not to stop blatant ripping. The way I'm gonna stop ripping is just through server-side validation of who's requesting stuff and seeing if they're in an instance that would allow them to. So it wouldn't stop blatant ripping. There is literally no way to stop ripping unless you're server-side rendering the game, which currently we don't have the technical capability nor really desire to do. If it's on their machine, they can rip it. Yeah. And with the system like this where it's all distributed, even banning becomes a problem. Ooh. If one value changes the same value, this will cause problems. Renders the assets for everyone in the instance. That requires significantly more processing. That you're still talking about like externally rendering stuff, right? That requires, yeah, something completely different than what we're building right here already. Right, but that still doesn't solve other issues, like how do you get the streaming latency to be low enough, how do you get people to not barf, because this is a VR engine, is latency. How do you... yeah. And then how do you stop that botnet? Because this is an open source project, so you're having random people actually run this botnet. So how do you get the botnet not to rip assets? Because if I want to like rip avatars, what I would do is I would provide my own botnet, because obviously like if I'm making money off of ripping avatars, then I have money to put towards a botnet. And I also don't want to tie myself to a proprietary thing that, like, also kind of breaks with the goals of the engine. Oh, this is event. So inner. Yeah, I know, that's what the goal is. Inner lock. The other, well, the solution to this is to make events happen asynchronously. That's how I handled this before. I started up stuff on the thread pool to actually handle the event listener. So then the lock doesn't matter, because we only need the lock to dispatch events. And then after you're done with that, you don't need it anymore. So do I now want to go off and do a whole entire side tangent? Wait a second, no. No, I already have a threading system. Asynchronous as in happening on a different thread. Hold it in queue, and then you just throw a function in. So then we enqueue. And inside of here, we have all of the callbacks. Then for every single callback, we want to thread pool in queue. I will copy C by value. My understanding, part of initialization of lane joiners, the world log being loaded sequentially, is the way it's done, so when you enter world, all objects are not being played out. Yeah, we're working on something completely different here. We're not even working on networking at all right now. but the world log thing you're talking about would just be a, like, one time the server would send the full state of the world to a client, and then from that point onward send delta updates. That's something I've already coded at my last company before, and that worked fine, so. Yeah. Right now, we're working on a thread-safe state management system for the engine that works with the undo commands. That's what we're currently working on. Because that state system is what I want to use to store the non-JSON version of editor assets, so we need that before fully refactoring editor assets. Am I allowed to re-implement that? I am the I am the sole coder on this engine, so I am allowed to do whatever I want. I am the boss. And args. Then we would just call the callback on the args. Like so. Someone pay you to do part of this engine at the company? Nope. So this engine is this is owned by the company that I own, and it's also open source Apache 2.0 licensed. So yeah, so I own everything that I'm doing here. I am the one paying myself to do, or rather not paying myself to do that, because I don't have enough revenue at the moment for like an actual salary. So technically it's like the people viewing my streams and donating that are the ones that are paying me. Or donating to the company, and then who is me? The company is me. Yeah, so when I go back and replace Threadpool with the pipeline systems, then I will come back to this and re-implement it properly. Good, so you're not going to pay a royalty indefinitely to something you made yourself? Nope. In fact, nobody that uses my engine will pay any royalties to me. Because again, this is an open source project that we're working on right now. Like, the code you see right now is also code you can see on GitHub once I push it. It's been a few days since I pushed my changes, because it is all not working, and the GitHub message telling me that it's all broken is annoying. Event. Where did I put invoke? There it is. Need to invoke with the arguments that are the current value, I believe. No, I'm planning on keeping this all open source. I do plan to make money with it eventually, but through things built around it rather than the actual engine itself. value. Ah, dang, this is a mutex. Which means this is wrong. I'm going to get so many errors when I we'll see how well I do at Blender integration. Definitely getting anything working is a priority first, though, before getting direct Blender integration working. Right now we just do GLTF-based import. Exactly. Back action, we want this to be before. Indeed, there is. Gonna implement the FBX file system. Yes, I'm planning on it. Not immediately. Maybe immediately. We'll see. We'll see. Oh, I wasn't even thinking about MMD. I was thinking about like just FBX and GLTF mostly, and potentially OBJ. But I keep getting recommended this library that handles importing for all of those different things, which I'm gonna check out. I do want to make it. I do want to closely tie into GLTFs, like import as much stuff from a GLTF as I can to make that super easy, since GLTFs are amazing. I do think they overstep a little bit with like the node graph stuff they're trying to do. It's like, oh, this format for storing models now has scripting in it for some reason. I was planning on supporting image formats. Not all of them, though. Like, WebP formats might be hard to deal with. Yes, so we are currently working on undo redo system, but for the entire engine instead of just for JSON stuff. Which I think this might be this is possibly implemented here now. We will see. We will see once I actually try to make an instance of this if it works. People can't import weird transparent textures with massive resolutions and compress them. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. That is a when we come to it problem. You also like crashing your internet connection, I see. You mean sandbox? Yeah, that's why I was talking about, like, wanting to sandbox everything earlier. Okay, this is potentially where it needs to be. Yeah, that's something that I want people to be able to configure for their worlds, is what levels of things to support. So I think at the world level, there will be like a default set of constraints that they allow in there, and then and even like client side, like you yourself won't download something of a certain size, or even try to initialize it once it is downloaded. I think this is implemented how I need it to be now. There are going to be so many errors with all these different nested templates, but we'll deal with it. Let's, what is going to be our test case for this? What should be our test case for this? 4K textures are fine when used in moderation. Even like if you had one world and every single object in that world pulled from an 8K texture, that would probably be fine too. As long as everything isn't an 8K texture. $16 materials. I don't want to fully redo that yet, so let's start working with assets. Or a single draw call? As in... I think, doesn't each individual skin mesh have to be its own draw call, though? Unless you're able to instance multiple of the same mesh that is skinned, like, it's really hard to get that into multiple draw calls. Because it's basically, like, what you're stuck with is one draw call per material. Like, you can't do 16 materials per draw call. The materials are draw calls. And that's just like a architecture of how things work, is unless you're like, yeah, one material is a draw call. Every material is a draw call. And when you do batching, what's going on there is you're sending multiple objects that use the same material. When you batch them, they get thrown into the same draw call. Like, you can do that. And yeah, skin meshes are a single draw call as well for each skin mesh, I believe, because you have different I mean, you might be able to batch skin meshes that use the same material, but then you have to like figure out how to run multiple of all of their bone positions. It would have to be a multiple of the same exact skinned mesh to be able to instance those. And maybe like there's some like pipeline black magic that I'm not familiar with, but by default it's per material, per different mesh. Everything uses VRAM. Alright, I'm going to stop yapping and actually get to... Let's do... Ooh, I don't want to have to deal with an assembly asset. If we deal with an assembly asset first, then we won't have to deal with anything else later. See, and I don't even really want to deal with virtual components either, because I don't want to have to refactor these, because I'm about to replace them with the Lua system, which will then be replaced with the BraneScript system, so virtual components just shouldn't exist. I need to do multiple refactors all at once. So, look at editor asset first. So this will no longer be versioned JSON. Instead we'll have a... do I even want string to be... Actually, no, I do want string to have specific edits and before and after, so it's fine if we have multiple string allocations. So we'll do a... Come on, Brane. We will do a tracked string, like so. Oh, I don't... what am I doing? Oh wait, no, this is an editor thing, so I would do state. Do I include this current source folder? Target include directories, so you make a current source directory, so state should be included in things that show up in here. Maybe it needs to be like that. Oh, it's tracked value that I want. But why is state not showing up? Do I need to rebuild the LSP database? Shouldn't need to. No template named tracked. Fix available. Editor state tracked value. But shouldn't this, like, include the, whatever. Low level legacy mouse input macro detection. Wow. I do not envy that. Locke is a private member of Mutex, but no. I put Locke in public. I put Locke. No, it was supposed to be public. Ah. I guess I just. Current task is to eliminate all the recoil script. No more smooth aiming for you. You have to break your wrists like the rest of us. No errors? Really? I coded templates for that long with barely any error checking, and there's no errors? Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll see. We shall see. No errors. Achievement unlocked. Suspicion unlocked. Only suspicion. You want the name of the asset to be the file name of the asset? changing the name will be a little bit more involved than changing that name string. We'll keep it for static for now. But we don't want to do versioned JSON. In fact, we won't do that at all. Instead, we'll let the asset decide how it does that stuff. And then I guess what I could do is, instead of asset type here, I could variant this for all the different types and do another variant for metadata. Nah. This is one area that I would like to do regular inheritance instead of trying to bootleg Rust it. I'll just throw that as a boolean for now. Come up with a better way of tracking versioning. I could do like just a So this is my current bootleg solution, and I already know that there's going to be an error with this. And the error is going to be if you undo after a save and then make another change, then this will show as no change. Would show as no change. I could do something weird like on change events, like undo redo, actions changing this thing, and then every time we make a change, it ups the change version, so those events could figure out, like, when was the last change version. That'll have to be a decision for you. I don't really have much input on that subject. So we have a change delta, and this gets changed by undo events. 0 means 0 undos or redos. Change version will get incremented every time we create a new change. So if we undo, create a change, and then redo, the change version will be different from the save version. It's going well. We have theoretically implemented a versioning system that works for all systems, all actions in the editor. And now we're moving on to the spot where we need to actually refactor our assets. It's also to the point where, like, I might go eat dinner instead of actually getting to the instead of actually moving on to the thing that is the subject in the title of the stream. But that does mean that the next stream I do will, in fact, be the that will be the actual thing. So, actually refactoring the assets. And in fact, it'll be a little bit better because I'll have some off-stream time to actually, like, figure out the way I really want to do it. And then when I'm on stream, I'll just be like, it will be like this stream where I'm just going along, implementation, no hard questions to answer. We are just implementing, like I did this time, where, like, this stream was great. I was doing stuff for the entire stream. I, like, had my usual yapping sessions, but I actually got stuff done in between them. But now I'm back to a hard decision area, so I kind of want to hide from the stream and not make hard decisions on stream. Because Brane doesn't work on stream. The muscle memory of implementing things remains, but the brain does not. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go eat something and then work on this off stream. Or queue up Ranked League. One or the other. I might be productive, or I might play the world's best facsimile for being productive. At least to your brain. Everybody else knows it's a complete lie. And you're deluding yourself. You're like, oh, I'm climbing. But no, you're not climbing. But yeah, to those of you who stuck around, thank you. It is very much appreciated. You are the ones who make this fun and tolerable. Yeah, and I didn't get errors. I'm very suspicious. I'm very sure that I did actually get errors. But, well, I guess I'll see if I actually did get errors off stream. And that will be reflected in whatever code changes. I'll talk about it when I stream again. But yeah, I'm signing off now. Thank you to those who stuck around. Appreciated all of that stuff. I will see you when I see you.